tonight, as the darkness settles across America from the Atlantic to the Pacific, from the bustling cities to the quiet rural towns. I want to speak to your heart if you're feeling lost, like you don't belong anywhere. Perhaps you're lying in bed right now, scrolling through your phone, searching for something, anything, that might ease this ache of displacement. Maybe you've just moved to a new state where the license plates are different, the accents unfamiliar, and even the trees look strange against the sky. Or perhaps you're in the same house you've lived in for years, surrounded by the same people, yet feeling more disconnected than ever, like you're speaking a language no one else understands. Whatever has brought you to this moment of feeling utterly lost, I want you to know that God sees you exactly where you are, in your apartment in Brooklyn, or your farmhouse in Iowa, in your dorm room in California, or your suburban home in Texas. And He's been waiting for this sacred moment to draw near to your wandering heart. Take a deep breath with me now, filling your lungs slowly with the night air, holding it for just a moment, feeling your chest expand, and then releasing it all, letting go of the exhaustion that comes from trying so hard to find where you fit. As you breathe out, imagine releasing the weight of not belonging, the constant ache of feeling like a puzzle piece that doesn't match any of the spaces around you. Breathe in God's presence, which fills this very room where you are right now. Whether it's a mansion or a studio apartment, whether you're alone or surrounded by people who don't truly see you, you don't have to drive anywhere, join anything, or prove yourself to anyone to find Him. He's already here, closer than your heartbeat, more real than your loneliness, waiting to remind you that you have always belonged to Him. Let your shoulders drop from where they've been tensed up near your ears. Let your jaw relax from where you've been clenching it without realizing, and allow yourself to sink into this profound truth. You are held by the One who created you, who designed every quirk that makes you different, who has been pursuing you through every moment of feeling lost, every night of wondering if you'll ever find your place. Let's begin with God's own words from Psalm 139, verses 7 through 10. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. These ancient words, penned thousands of years ago, speak directly to your modern struggle, reminding us that there is nowhere in this vast nation, nowhere in this entire universe, where God's love cannot find us. Even in our deepest sense of not belonging, we are held by hands that shaped the Rocky Mountains and carved out the Grand Canyon. Even in our most profound lostness, when we feel like we're wandering through a social wilderness where everyone else seems to have a map except us, we are already found by the God who knows every star by name and knows your name even better. Heavenly Father, tonight I come before you with a heart that feels untethered, like a boat that has slipped its mooring in a harbor and now drifts on dark waters, not sure which shore to aim for. I praise you because you are the God who sees, El Roi, the one who looked upon Hagar in her wilderness when she had been cast out, when she had nowhere to go. And you reminded her she was not forgotten or forsaken. I praise you because you are the good shepherd who leaves the 99 sheep safe in the fold to search through thorns and darkness for the one who has wandered away, whose bleating cry of loneliness moves your heart to action. You are the father who stands on the porch every evening, scanning the horizon for any sign of your beloved child returning home, ready to run with robes flying, dignity abandoned, just to embrace the one who thought they could never come back. I worship you because you are the God of the displaced, the friend of strangers, the one who gathers the scattered like a hen gathers her chicks, who gives the solitary a home when the world has left them homeless in heart. In this American culture that often measures belonging by the car we drive, by our Instagram followers, by the neighborhood we can afford with its good schools and manicured lawns, by the job title on our LinkedIn profile or the degrees hanging on our wall, you remind us that our worth isn't found in any zip code or social status. You are the God who chose rough fishermen from Galilee and despised tax collectors, who welcomed foreign women like Ruth and Rahab into the very lineage of Christ, who built your kingdom with those who didn't fit anywhere else in society. I praise you for your upside-down kingdom, where the last are first, where the lonely find family that runs deeper than blood, where those who feel they don't belong discover they've been chosen before the foundation of the world, their names written in your book before time began. You are the architect of true belonging, the designer of authentic community, the one who created us, not for the isolation of scrolling through everyone else's happiness, but for real connection, messy and beautiful and worth the risk. I magnify you tonight because you understand what it feels like to not belong. Jesus, you came to your own, and your own received you not. You were born in a stable because there was no room in the inn, immediately identifying with everyone who's ever been told there's no space for them. You grew up in Nazareth, that looked down upon town, that made people scoff. Can anything good come from there? You know what it's like to be prejudged, dismissed, to have people make assumptions about you based on where you're from. You spent your ministry years with no place to lay your head, telling your followers that foxes have holes and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to rest. You understand the tired feet of wandering, the empty ache of having no fixed address to call home, the loneliness of being misunderstood even by your own family who thought you had lost your mind. Lord, let me take this moment to simply rest in your presence, to stop the frantic searching for where I fit, like someone constantly refreshing their phone, hoping for an invitation that never comes. And instead remember that I fit perfectly in the palm of your nail-scarred hand. What are you saying to my wandering heart tonight, in the silence that feels so loud when everyone else seems to be out living their connected lives? Help me to be still enough to hear your voice calling me by name, not the labels the world has given me, not too weird or too different or too much or not enough, but the name you speak over me, beloved, chosen, mine. Father, I need to confess that in my feelings of not belonging, I have sometimes believed lies about myself and about you that have taken root like weeds in the garden of my heart. I have believed that I am too different, too broken, too complicated, too intense, too quiet, too something to fit anywhere. I have scrolled through Facebook watching everyone else's friend groups gathering for game nights and backyard barbecues, their easy laughter mocking my solitude, and I have felt the bitter sting of comparison poisoning my soul. Forgive me for the times I have believed that you made a mistake with me, that somehow I slipped through quality control in heaven, that I'm a manufacturing defect in your otherwise perfect creation. I confess that I have tried to force myself into spaces where you never intended me to be, exhausting myself trying to laugh at jokes I don't find funny, pretending to care about things that don't move me, wearing masks that grow heavier each day, all in the desperate attempt to earn acceptance and approval from people who were never meant to be my tribe. I repent of the times I have isolated myself, building walls instead of bridges, choosing the perceived safety of loneliness over the vulnerability of reaching out one more time. My heart has been hurt, Lord, by surface-level friendships that promised depth but delivered disappointment, by communities that preached inclusion but practiced exclusion, by relationships that seemed promising but faded like morning mist. Forgive me for letting these wounds fester, for allowing rejection to write the narrative of my worth. I confess that I have sometimes pushed others away who were also searching for connection, too wrapped up in my own pain to see theirs. Lord, I acknowledge that in my desperate attempts to belong, I have sometimes compromised who you made me to be, dimming my light to fit in with darkness, silencing my voice to gain acceptance from those who weren't interested in what I had to say anyway. I confess the sin of pride that sometimes whispers I'm too good for the imperfect communities you've placed in my path, that I deserve better than the flawed humans you've given me to love. Forgive me for the times I've rejected the belonging you've offered through ordinary people in ordinary places because I was waiting for something that looked more impressive, more like the curated communities I see on social media. I repent of believing the enemy's lie, that I will always be on the outside looking in, pressed against the glass of other people's togetherness, like a child at a candy store window. Thank you for your grace that covers all my failed attempts to find belonging in achievement that never satisfies, in relationships that were built on pretense, in groups that required me to betray my values, in identities that shifted like sand beneath my feet. Your love remains constant as the northern star, when everything else in my life feels like it's spinning without direction. Lord, tonight I bring before you this deep ache of not belonging anywhere, this pain that feels like a constant low-grade fever of the soul. You know the Friday nights I've spent alone while it seems the rest of America is out with friends. The sound of laughter from neighboring apartments highlighting my solitude. You've seen me at parties, surrounded by people but feeling utterly alone, making small talk while my heart cries out for someone to see past the surface, to ask how I'm really doing and wait for the honest answer. You've watched me try to insert myself into conversations where I'm tolerated but not celebrated, where I'm included but not truly welcomed. I ask you to heal this wound of displacement that runs so deep it feels like it's become part of my DNA, to bind up the broken places where rejection has left its mark, like scars that ache when the weather changes. Give me the courage to keep showing up, even when I feel like an outsider at work meetings, where everyone else seems to have inside jokes. At church, small groups where everyone else has known each other for years. At neighborhood gatherings where I'm still the new person after living here for 5 years. Help me to see that sometimes feeling lost is actually the beginning of being found by you in deeper ways than I ever imagined possible. When everyone else's roots seem to run deep, while mine feel like they're barely scratching the surface. Remind me that you are teaching me to root myself in you alone, the only foundation that never shifts. I pray for wisdom to discern where you are calling me to invest my heart, my time, my vulnerability in this season, in a nation of 330 million people. Help me find the few who will see me, really see me, know me, and love me not in spite of my quirks, but because of them. Guide me to communities of faith where authenticity is valued over performance, where broken people gather to heal together rather than hide their wounds, where I don't have to pretend to have it all figured out or paste on a smile when my heart is breaking. Show me the difference between groups where I need to perform for acceptance and places where I can simply be, messy and real and still welcome. Lord, I surrender my timeline for finding belonging. I release my desperate, white-knuckled grip on trying to make connections happen in my own strength. My exhausting efforts to be whoever I think people want me to be. Some of us have been searching for years, decades even, moving from job to job, hoping the next workplace will feel like family. Church to church, hoping the next congregation will feel like home. City to city, carrying our loneliness like luggage, hoping the next place will finally be where we fit. Give us patience in the journey that feels longer than the Israelites wandering in the wilderness, and eyes to see the small moments of connection you provide along the way, the divine appointments disguised as chance encounters. I lift up my family, Lord, each carrying their own struggles with belonging. For my children who might feel different at school, who eat lunch alone or with the teacher because the cafeteria social landscape feels like navigating a minefield, who come home with brave faces, hiding hearts that wonder why making friends seems so easy for everyone else. Cover them with your protective love that's fiercer than a mother bear defending her cubs. For my spouse, who may feel disconnected at work, passed over for promotions that go to those who golf with the boss, who feels like they're speaking a different language than their colleagues. Remind them of their infinite worth in your eyes that see past job titles to the heart. For my parents, who might be experiencing the displacement of aging in a youth-obsessed culture, of changing roles from caregiver to care receiver, of a world that seems to move too fast and speak too loudly and value things they don't understand. Surround them with your timeless love that honors gray hair and wrinkled hands that have served so faithfully. For those in my family who have wandered from faith, who feel they don't belong in church anymore because of wounds inflicted by your imperfect people, pursue them with your relentless grace that never gives up, never stops knocking, never stops calling them home. I pray for protection over my heart during this vulnerable season when it would be so easy to grow bitter. Guard me from the enemy's lies that whisper, I will always be on the outside looking in, that there's something fundamentally wrong with me that repels connection. Protect me from bitterness that wants to take root when I see others' easy friendships on social media, their Saturday morning coffee dates and couples dinners and friend group vacations to the beach. Shield me from the temptation to create a false version of myself just to fit in somewhere, to betray who you've made me to be for the counterfeit belonging that comes from conformity. Protect my hope, Lord, when another attempt at connection falls flat, when another community doesn't feel quite right, when another relocation doesn't bring the belonging I crave, when another year passes with the same ache unhealed. Keep my heart soft and open, even when it would be easier to close off and go it alone. To decide that if I can't find belonging, I'll embrace isolation as a twisted form of control. Guard my mind from the spiral of negative thoughts that comes in the 3 a.m. darkness when everyone else is sleeping peacefully next to someone who loves them, while I lie awake wondering if this is my permanent state. Protect me from making decisions from this place of loneliness that I'll regret later. From settling for toxic relationships because they're better than no relationships. From compromising my values because at least then I'd have somewhere to go on Friday nights. Father, what do you want to teach me through this valley of not belonging that feels like it stretches endlessly in every direction? Is there a deeper truth you're revealing about my identity being rooted in you alone, not in any human community or earthly address? Are you stripping away false securities like social status and friend groups so I can find my ultimate home in your presence? Are you perhaps preparing me to be a refuge for others who feel lost? To be the welcoming presence I've longed to find? To create the inclusive space I've searched for? Open my spiritual eyes to see the lessons hidden in this lonely season, like treasure buried in a field that looks barren on the surface. Help me listen for your voice in the silence that comes from not belonging to the usual groups and gatherings, in the quiet Saturday mornings when I'm not rushing to social events, in the empty spaces where you have room to speak. Perhaps this feeling of being a spiritual nomad is actually preparing me for a calling I can't yet see, strengthening muscles of empathy I'll need for the assignment. You have waiting. Maybe you're teaching me to find you in the wilderness like Moses did, to hear you in the whisper like Elijah did, to trust you in the waiting like Abraham did. All of them people who knew what it meant to not quite fit the mold. Lord, I lift up everyone listening tonight who knows this particular pain of feeling like a stranger in their own life, like they're living someone else's story or watching their life through a window. For the military family that's moved for the 7th time in 10 years. Each new base feeling less like home. Their children experts at being the new kid, but longing to be the one with childhood friends. For the recent college graduate in a new city, where everyone seems to already have their established friend groups formed in kindergarten, where breaking in feels impossible. For the divorced individual who no longer fits in married couples' gatherings, but doesn't quite belong with the singles either, existing in a painful in-between space. For the bereaved who feel out of sync with a world that has moved on, while they're still learning to breathe in a reality where their person is gone. For those dealing with chronic illness who can no longer participate in the activities that once defined their belonging. Watching from the sidelines as life goes on without them. For the individual whose faith journey has led them away from their childhood denomination, leaving them spiritually homeless, too progressive for their conservative roots, but too traditional for progressive spaces. For the one whose political views don't align neatly with either party, who feels politically orphaned in our divided nation, where it seems you must choose a side. I pray for the teenager who eats lunch in the library or bathroom to avoid the cafeteria where they have no place to sit, who has perfected the art of looking busy on their phone to mask their aloneness. For the new mom who scrolls through parenting groups online at 2 a.m. while nursing, feeling like she's failing compared to everyone else's filtered motherhood. For those whose career changes or job losses have left them feeling like beginners in rooms full of experts. Imposter syndrome, their constant companion. For the empty nesters whose identity was wrapped up in active parenting for 2 decades, now wondering where they fit in a world that seems designed for young families or young professionals. I lift up those whose differences make belonging feel impossible in a world that often fears what it doesn't understand. For those on the autism spectrum, navigating a neurotypical world that feels like speaking a foreign language without a translator. For those whose skin color makes them the only one in the room, carrying the exhausting weight of representation. For those whose accents mark them as outsiders, no matter how long they've called America home. Their words filtered through others' assumptions. For those whose bank accounts exclude them from their neighbors' lifestyles. who decline invitations because they can't afford to participate. For those whose past mistakes follow them like shadows, whose Google results tell a story they can't escape. For the one whose sexual orientation or gender identity has made them feel unwelcome in faith communities, wrestling with loving God while feeling rejected by His people. For those whose mental health struggles make maintaining relationships feel like climbing Mount Everest every day, who cancel plans not from lack of care, but from overwhelming anxiety. For the single person in their 40s, surrounded by married friends, tired of being asked when they'll settle down. For the childless couple in a church full of young families, grieving dreams while smiling at baby dedications. Lord, You see each story, each tear cried into pillows, each brave attempt to show up one more time. Father, I thank You that You are the God of the outsider, that Your heart has always been with those on the margins. Thank You for showing us through Jesus what it means to belong to Your kingdom that operates on entirely different principles than this world. He was born in a stable when there was no room in the inn, immediately identifying with everyone who's ever been told there's no space for them at the table. He grew up in Nazareth, that looked down upon town that made others mock, experiencing prejudice before he could even walk. Thank You that Jesus chose disciples who were overlooked by other rabbis, the ones who didn't make the cut for religious education, the ones working blue-collar jobs because they weren't considered smart enough for theology. Thank You for preserving these stories to remind us that Your kingdom is built by those who don't fit the world's categories of success or belonging. Thank You that He ate with tax collectors who were viewed as traitors, with sinners whose reputations preceded them, with women in a culture that didn't value their voices. Thank You that He touched lepers who hadn't felt human contact in years, who lived outside the city gates because they were considered too unclean to belong. Thank You that His first resurrection appearance was to Mary Magdalene, a woman with a past, whose testimony wasn't even legally valid in that culture, showing us that You choose the overlooked to carry the most important messages. Thank You for the times You've provided unexpected belonging in my life, even if they were brief glimpses of what community could be. For the stranger in the coffee shop who struck up a conversation on the day I most needed human connection, whose name I never learned, but whose kindness I'll never forget. For the coworker who noticed I was eating alone at my desk again and invited me to join their lunch group, making space at a table that was already full. For the neighbor who waves from across the street, who doesn't know my story but makes me feel seen in my comings and goings. For the online community where I found others who understand my specific struggle, where usernames became lifelines. Thank You for books that have been companions on lonely evenings, authors who felt like friends, characters who understood what I couldn't articulate. For the pets that have offered unconditional love, who greet me with enthusiasm whether I've been gone 5 minutes or 5 hours, who don't care about my social status or friend count. For nature walks where I felt connected to Your creation even when disconnected from people, where trees and sky and birdsong reminded me I'm part of something larger. For music that has put words to my wordless grief, for artists who sang my sadness and gave voice to my longing, for the moon that's kept me company on sleepless nights, constant and faithful, reminding me You're always watching. I thank You for the promise that this feeling of not belonging is temporary, that it won't last forever even when it feels like a life sentence. Whether You provide earthly community in unexpected ways or sustain me with Your presence alone, I trust that You are working all things together for good, weaving even my loneliness into a tapestry I can't yet see. Thank you for the future hope of heaven, where every tear will be wiped away, where we will fully know even as we are fully known, where belonging will never again be a question, because we'll be home in the deepest sense of the word. Thank you that you're preparing a place specifically for me, that in your Father's house are many rooms, and one has my name on the door, that you've gone ahead to make ready a home where I will perfectly fit, where all the ways I never fit on earth will suddenly make sense. Thank you that my story isn't over, that this chapter of not belonging isn't the final word. Thank you that you're still writing, still working, still moving in ways I cannot see. Thank you for sustaining me through nights when loneliness felt like it might swallow me whole, for being present in empty rooms and silent phones and uninvited Saturdays. Thank you that your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Even when human love has proven fickle and conditional and withdrawn, tonight, I declare your promises over every listening heart that feels lost and alone in cities and towns across this nation. I declare Isaiah 43, 1-4 over you. Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. When you walk through fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you. For I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. Because you are precious in my eyes, and honored, and I love you. You belong to the God of the universe, not because of anything you've done or any group you've joined, but because He chose you before you took your first breath in that delivery room where you were immediately placed in waiting arms. I declare that your feeling of displacement does not define your worth any more than a GPS malfunction changes your actual location. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, crafted with the same intention God used to design snowflakes and fingerprints, unique and irreplaceable. Your quirks aren't flaws, they're features. Your differences aren't defects, they're by design. I declare that the very things that make you feel like you don't fit are the things God will use to fulfill your purpose. That your outsider perspective is needed, that your different drumbeat adds richness to the symphony of humanity. I speak the blessing of unexpected belonging over your tomorrow. May God surprise you with a conversation that feels like coming home, with an invitation you didn't see coming from someone who genuinely wants your company. May He orchestrate divine appointments at grocery stores and gas stations, in waiting rooms and dog parks, wherever His people gather in ordinary places. May He give you courage to show up authentically, to risk vulnerability one more time, even though your heart bears the scars of previous attempts. May He grant you wisdom to recognize your people when you meet them, even if they don't look like what you expected. I bless you with the strength to resist the temptation to numb this pain with things that promise belonging but deliver bondage. May you find the courage to feel the loneliness without running from it, knowing that God meets us most profoundly in our deepest need. I bless you with eyes to see the other lonely people around you, to become the friend you've been looking for, to extend the invitation you've been waiting to receive. May your pain become a bridge to others' healing, your story a lighthouse for other ships lost in the fog of isolation. I speak peace over your racing thoughts that wonder if you'll always be alone. The Lord bless you and keep you in the palm of His hand, where no one can snatch you away. The Lord make his face shine upon you in the darkness of disconnection and be gracious to you when you feel most unlovable. The Lord turn his face toward you when everyone else looks away and give you peace that transcends your circumstances. You are his beloved child, pursued when you wander, celebrated when you return, held when you feel like you're free-falling through life without a safety net. Your name is written on his palms where the nails left scars, purchased with blood more precious than gold. Take a moment now in the quiet to breathe in this truth like oxygen to your suffocating soul. You are held by hands that hold the universe in place. You are known by the one who numbers the hairs on your head, who collects your tears in his bottle, who has written every day of your life in his book. You are loved with an everlasting love that will never let you go, never give up on you, never decide you're too much work. Let these truths sink past your racing mind into your weary heart, past your heart into your very bones that ache with loneliness. Rest in the arms of the one who never slumbers nor sleeps, who watches over you through every solitary night, who is already working to lead you home even when you can't see the path. Dear one, as you prepare to sleep in beds across America tonight, remember that even in your dreams, God is with you. He doesn't clock out when you close your eyes or take breaks when you're unconscious. His love doesn't operate on business hours or require you to be awake to receive it. May your sleep be sweet and untroubled. May your dreams be filled with glimpses of the belonging that awaits you. And may you wake tomorrow with renewed hope that you belong to the God who leaves the 99 to find the one, who searches until he finds, who rejoices over you with singing, even when you can't hear the melody. If this prayer touched your heart tonight, if you felt seen and known in these words, type Amen in the comments. Let it be a declaration that you receive these truths, that you're choosing to believe you belong to God, even when you don't belong anywhere else. Share this with someone else who might be feeling lost tonight, who might be lying in their own bed, wondering if anyone understands their ache. Remind them they're not wandering alone, that across this nation, there are others who understand the pain of not fitting in, who are also learning to find their home in God alone. Until we meet again in prayer tomorrow night, rest in the absolute, unchangeable, unshakable certainty that you belong to him, and nothing in all creation, not loneliness, not rejection, not all the closed doors and unreturned texts and excluded moments, can change that beautiful, eternal truth. Sleep well, beloved child of God. You are home in his heart tonight and always. May the Lord watch over your sleeping and your waking, and may you feel his presence like a warm blanket on a cold night, surrounding you with the belonging your heart has been searching for all along.